wanted to talk a little bit about iPhone upgrade cycles, and we've sort of touched on this a little bit in the past. But one thing I did want to there's plenty of articles that would seem to suggest that every maybe roughly 2 to 3 years is probably the rough cadence for upgrading your iPhone, and largely that's because things like the battery might be getting a bit worse for wear by that time. The software updates are slowing down the phone, whatever it happens to be. I've been able to successfully get about 6 years of use out of each iPhone that I've ever had, which that's my my cadence. But then I kind of set an expectation of how much functionality I'll get out of it after year 3, year 4, year 5, year 6, that sort of thing. But one thing I did want to sort of just mention quickly is so I've it's been 13 years now since I've gotten the iPhone 4, which was the first iPhone I had. I was on a 2 year cadence, which was so I went from the 4 to the 5 to the 6 to the 7 to the 10s Max, 12 Pro Max, and now 14 Pro Max. Now, from the 4 to the 10s Max, I would argue that the 2 year cadence actually worked really well because during the 2010s there were significant jumps in functionality and just how well the phone worked between the 2 year time frame. But I noticed now with the 14 Pro Max, going from the 10s Max to the 14 Pro Max, which would have been a 4 year jump, that 4 year jump is roughly equivalent in terms of my feeling of using the phones as to what the old 2 year jump used to be, which would suggest that these phones are starting to hit a I don't know if you call it a limit, but it's slowing down how much they can jam in there, how much they can improve, and all that sort of thing. It's all sort of becoming a lot more slower in terms of that sort of thing. And like I would argue now that it'd be perfectly fine to hang out for 4 years, assuming nothing else goes wrong with the phone. But it's interesting that you have to reevaluate these things because people obviously ask these questions: how long should I keep my device for, or whatever. It's entirely up to you. It's a personal choice. You can buy a new one if you want it. There's nothing to stop you from doing that. But then there are other people that want to run their existing phone into the ground before buying another one. So, but I thought it was just the pace of how things have slowed down, which as a product category matures, you'd expect that.
Oh, you're depressing me, Ben, because I've got an iPhone 13. I don't like it, and I'd gladly trade up after 2 years if I thought the next iPhone was going to be better. I went from an iPhone 4S to an iPhone 13, and just a couple of interesting points. They're about the same shape. They've probably got about the same battery life for the usage that I do. The only difference is that the iPhone 13 is bigger, it's clunkier, and it's less pleasant to use than my iPhone 4S. So I got 4 years out of my iPhone 4S, and I agree with you. I think probably 4 years is optimal for any phone. Sure, you can keep them way longer, and I've got friends who keep iPhones for 6 years, 8 years, and I think that that's great value. In the iPhone, if you're really talking about value, it is great value because you're getting a very good phone, and its longevity is so much better than the two Android phones I had in the years I wasn't with iPhone. So, but yeah, it's an interesting thing. I think people don't appreciate how good the iPhone is functionally. So whether or not you like it as a device, or you think that Apple has got it right, you're getting an excellent camera, you're getting a reliable operating system that doesn't basically strip all your data and send it off to anyone who might be just curious via your app library as to what you're doing and who you are. So there are a lot of advantages to it, and it's interesting you say that. I could imagine. I mean, if the iPhone is at 15 this year, if it's notably lighter and no, I don't really care about better. I just want it to be lighter, and I want the operating system to be better, which isn't the function of the hardware. So, um, I'd probably almost go for an iPhone 15 or 16, which would put me at the 2 to 3 year mark. But I have no doubt at all that my iPhone 13 would be reliable and just as good as whatever else Apple is putting out for another 2 years after this, which would make it 4 years.
Well, the 15's rumored to be getting a titanium casing, which would maybe solve your lightness problem or heaviness problem.
Ben, it needs. my, my phone feels like a house brick in my pocket, and I haven't got used to it in 2 years. So that's telling you, compared to my Android phone, oh my God.
Absolutely. On my front, on my side, I would say that I'm actually going to maybe spin it out. Like I've never gone beyond 2 years as the primary phone. I'm going to, with the 14 Pro that I've got, I'm going to push it out to 3 years and maybe more depending on how it goes, because I just think that's kind of where we're at the moment, and it's good. It's a good thing. Things have gotten better and whatnot, aside from the aesthetics, I guess.
Oh, well, that's right. And look, the reality is that with an iPhone, the potential for longevity, I think, is a lot greater than the Android phones that I've experienced, and that was both a Sony and an LG. And I hear the Samsungs aren't much better than a 2-year proposition, and neither are the Pixels, from all the people I know that do own them. So I think the one thing we can say with certainty, love them or hate them, iPhones have longevity built in. And if you don't have a huge budget, well, it's probably worth spending that big initial hit to get one, and know that you get at least 4 years out of it, maybe longer.
And that's something I've been arguing for years as well.